Whoops, LinkedIn says you're not approved for LinkedIn Live. I am approved for LinkedIn Live. Just remove it. Okay.
We're live somewhere.
Oh, are we?
Morning, welcome to Green Cow. We have some info today about job or business.
And we are trying to go live to more than one place right now than we have, or more places than we have in the past. So let us know. Do me a favor if you're watching. Let us know when or where you're seeing us, where you have found us, because we're looking for ourselves.
Did you see some of those things that just popped up?
They didn't just pop up. Those were the other banners that you can choose from.
No, there was information on there.
Oh, I don't know. Well, good morning, everybody. Please say hi. Let us know that you're here. Let us know what you're up to today. Of course, if you have any good news that you'd like to share with us, we would love to hear it. And hi, Carol. Carol's here. She's live. If you want to go live with us this morning, this is a call-in show. So you can give us a hashtag go live, and we can send you a link to come on live with us. Today is Friday, so I would love to hear what your guys' plans are for the weekend, or what cool things you've accomplished this week, or just what's going on with you. I had an Irish cream donut this morning.
Good for you. Where did you go?
I was OG Donuts in Chesterton.
Oh,
there was an Irish cream and coffee donut. Yes. So I was very excited about that. Ursula's here this morning. Hi, Ursula. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, so let us know what's going on with you guys and any cool things that you have planned. That's my thoughts. Today is Promotion Friday in our Serving and Succeeding group. So I'll be posting that shortly. It's the promotion post that we do every week, where if you've got a business or you've got something that you sell, crafts, something that you make, if you are fundraising for a nonprofit, any of those things can be promoted on that thread. So I'll be posting that soon.
We do ask that you don't just hit people in the face with an ad.
Because that's rarely effective. Unless you're selling protective eyewear. I'm sorry, I really cracked myself up with that one.
So the idea is, say something that makes you human. A computer can send an ad to us, but you have a different dimension. You happen to be human. So make sure people know that you can mention a testimonial or something, or a little story about how what you do helped another person, anything like that makes it just a little bit more community-like. And
we're going to make that easy for you by asking you to answer a fun prompt with the advertisement. So we'll do that as well. All right. Well, like I said, give us a hashtag. Go live. If you want to join us live, say hi. If you're here, if you're watching on the replay, give us a hashtag replay. And also, as always, we would welcome you to share some good news and things that are going on with you. Today, for our Career Chat Friday, we are focusing on the topic of, should I get a job or start a business? So Mark is here this morning.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Mark.
Be sure to let us know if you prefer coffee or tea.
Who prefers tea?
People.
In Britain? I think that was a thing between like the Americans and the British. It's not very patriotic.
That was a while back.
Just a couple of days. All right. So today we're going to be talking about who said tea. I don't know. You're a Facebook user. So guys, by the way, if you want us to know who you have if you want us to know who you are when you comment, authorize StreamYard or just say, hey, this is this person.
Just go to, what is it, StreamYard.com/.
The URL is
Facebook.
up there.
Oh, is
Yeah,
it?
the
Okay.
URL is up there. They can do it. Yeah. All right. So let's actually get into the topic that we are here to talk about today, which is, should I get a job or start a business? But we had a comment coming in here.
Wow, Carol is editing her grandfather's letters.
Oh, that's cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. And
yeah.
designing the front cover of the book. Very cool. Yeah. All right. I guess we have some tea prefers out there. I'll take back my British comment, unless you all are. That's cool. They have cool accents.
Okay.
All right. So our topic for today is, should I get a job or start a business? And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because we've had some conversations recently sort of about both. We had a really great conversation this Wednesday about our why. So when we had our business chat and we had people kind of sharing why they started a business, that was pretty cool. And it made me think that I kind of run into this question a lot. When you have somebody that's looking to make a career move, either it's something that they're kind of in a situation where they're forced to make a career move. So moving, there's something that's changed in their family. Their position is being eliminated, stuff like that, where they have to make a decision. Or sometimes it comes from people who are just thinking, I'm not really happy where I'm at and I want to do something different, but I'm not really sure what. A lot of times this kind of question comes from people who do something as kind of as an expert of some sort. So you have some expertise in an area. And so your thought is, do I use that on my own to start doing some of these things on my own, or do I find another job? And I told you guys on Wednesday that I did have a few jobs. I was teaching. I always taught while I was freelancing. But that's a question that I get from a lot of people in the creative fields who are doing things like design, writing, that kind of thing. Does it make more sense for me to just go out and do this on my own, or should I find another job? So if you've ever wondered that, if that's ever been something that you have thought about, that's Dawn that says good morning. So good morning, Dawn. Thanks for being here today. If that's ever been something that you have thought about, let us know if you've ever had to face this. Also, there's a big movement lately, the independent contractor thing or the freelancer thing. So I know a lot of people who are, instead of going and trying to find a 9-to-5 job, are working as independent contractors for one or more organizations. It's kind of, what do they call it? There's an Uber effect or something.
I haven't heard that.
Because it's that's how Uber works. And so, a lot of times people are wondering, should I continue in that, or should I go on and actually find a 9-to-5 job? And so if you have ever wondered that too, or if you're in that boat right now, or maybe you do a little bit of both, we'd love to hear from you. Love to hear what your thoughts are about that. If you've ever had that experience where you've had to wonder those things, that would be
just trying to find
awesome.
us.
Lee's trying to find himself again. We seem to run into this a lot. So what are you doing over there? So yeah. So Carol has an interesting comment here. She says, I learned your work of years does not define you, and reinventing yourself can be amazing. It was a tough lesson, but the stars are bright at the end. That's a cool comment. So your years of work does not define you, and you can reinvent yourself. You can always reinvent yourself. So you might not be able to find where you're actually going live on Facebook at the moment, but Carol's comment suggests that you can find yourself. Did you find us?
Oh, I found you and you and you and Morley Creative, your career, and I finally got to Serving and Succeeding, but
there we are. All right. Well, I think that Carol's comment here, yes, of course, you can always reinvent yourself. Although, and I think, Carol, you have kind of a cool story of that, of you owning the antique stores and now everything that you do with photography, which is so awesome. I think that's great. And I think that is true. We've had that discussion before. If there's always something that you've wanted to do, a lot of times people shut it off before they even start by saying, I could never do that. And that's a problem. But you can always.
That's a symptom of a bigger problem.
Which is?
If your self-talk allows you to say, I could never do that, that's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that's true. And it's not always. Sometimes when you're I'm working with someone right now who's in a situation that this reminds me of. It's somebody that really has the desire to do a certain type of work and to start a business doing that type of work. And I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't really have permission to share this person's story. But I just say it's something that this person feels really called to do and would do really well in this field, just personality-wise and skills and talents and all that. But the problem is there's no experience at all. And so in that particular...
go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt because I'm curious to know how you get experience in a situation like that.
Well, that's kind of what I recommended. I said, look, in this particular case, I know you'd really love to start a business. And I think that you should start doing all the branding that you can, all the stuff that we've talked about, going live on Facebook, and people are listening to you and starting to post the things that, mean things to you. But I said, I think it's going to be some time. It's going to take some time before you can actually start a business in this area because you don't have expertise. So while you're doing that, while you're going and you're starting to cultivate your brand, I think you should go get a job in that area because that person is qualified to get a job in this area. There's not additional education that's needed. They have the transferable skills. That should be fairly easy. And that job would probably pay okay. They might want to do something on the side too, but this person's used to that. So in that case, I said, I think because you need the credentials, you could go to school, you could get a 4-year degree in this or that, and the other, but you could go get a job in this area, get paid, get some experience, and then start your business. And I think that's what I would do. So that was my thought in that particular case. Would you have another thought or idea?
Well, you mentioned something that caught my attention about, you have to go get a job because you have to support a family kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And I think many of us, maybe even most of us, have enough skills to do something on their own. Mm-hmm. But it takes a huge commitment and it takes sacrifice. And many people aren't necessarily willing to do that. I saw here that some people here have closed businesses. Mm-hmm. I've closed businesses myself. I don't get emotionally attached to it, but I can understand how some people do. And there are people out there who will look at you as a failure, I suppose. But the people who have been there, the people who have created businesses and lost businesses, understand that that's just part of the growth path. That's part of learning how to do business. And so I think that closing a business is kind of a badge of honor. It's like, hey, I figured out all the ways I could that this wouldn't work.
And similarly, when you make a move in your career, it's Sometimes people like to hang on to things. I tend to work with a lot of people leaving education. I was actually just talking with someone yesterday, and it can be really hard, especially this person I was talking to yesterday was in education and nonprofit and looking at making a transition to corporate and feeling really like, I feel like I'm kind of betraying this world that I've been in, and I feel so, attached to it. And I kind of said, there's all kinds of good things you can do in all kinds of areas.
That's true for most people.
Yeah. And it's not, you should know when to move on, because if you don't, then you'll wait too long. And I've done that before too. So.
And waiting too long, it can be painful financially. It can also be painful in that time goes on and we don't know how much time we have. But sometimes you just feel attached to something, and so you hang on to it for a little bit longer than you'd like.
And sometimes, and here's the thing, if you do have a business, or if you're managing people, if you're somehow on the other side of this, try to help the people that work for you. Don't put so much pressure on them that they feel like they can't make the moves that are right for them. I've heard that so many times, but I feel like I can't leave because so-and-so depends so much on me. Like, I don't want to be that person, because again, I don't want someone working for me that really doesn't want to be there, but they feel like they have to be because I want them there. You know what I'm saying? So
and Mark made an interesting comment to Ursula. He says that he made the mistake of doing what he loved instead of focusing on the money. That sentence doesn't sit very well with me, because you should be able to do what you love and make money. And I think he figured it out. I didn't need to take money from my business. It allowed it to grow. And so don't think that just because you're doing something that you love, now it may be a hobby. We've distinguished between a business and hobby before. Hobbies typically you don't get paid for, or you don't get paid enough to actually live on. But hobbies are still good and nourishing to us, and they give us a sense of purpose and things like that. But Mark's right in that, if you really want to make a business, you have to watch the money. You have to make it profitable. Otherwise, it just won't be sustainable.
Right. So there's a number of things to consider here when we kind of bring this all back to our topic for today, which is, do I get a job, or do I start a business, or do I do some kind of version of both? Here's some of the things we've talked about so far, just to kind of summarize. In my story about the person that wanted to make this shift, but I said get a job first, that was all about credentials. So in a lot of cases, you want to do something on your own and you feel like you're totally capable of it, but you don't have the credentials. You're going to need some kind of credentials in some way. And now that doesn't mean you have to have a certificate or a degree or have gone to school for any number of time. It doesn't have to mean you've had to be in the area for 10 years. There's some industries that are really highly regulated where, yes, absolutely, you have to have a certificate or a license,
Probably can't be a lawyer without going to school, or a doctor.
Don't do those things. That's bad. You'll be in trouble. But, you have to get some kind of credentials. A credential could be taking a certificate course. It could also be just getting some experience in that field. Yes. So that was the issue there, was that do you have, even if you know you can do this thing, do you have the credentials? Mark, a lot of times you and I have talked about testimonials, or you've said something about testimonials. Testimonials can be credentials too. So that might be, what you need.
Certainly validation that what it is that you're doing is helpful.
In fact, we had a sponsors meeting yesterday that started out with someone giving us a positive testimonial. So that was pretty awesome.
And I think that in many cases, those testimonials are more powerful than a set of letters after your name, or a certificate from some organization about something.
But the letters are still okay, right?
There's a few of them that
you
are
still
okay.
need to put the letters on my tombstone, right? Because I earned those letters.
No.
They were expensive.
If you have letters after your name, that's cool. But having testimonials from people who you've helped is
Sure.
cooler.
We all know people. First of all, if you went to any kind of school at all, you know people that were in your class that you're wondering, man, are these people actually going to graduate and become a this? Because I don't know. But there's the credentials are important somehow. So when I started freelancing, when I went from being, when I went from being a freelancer to being actually starting a business, one of the things I needed was testimonials. And I talked to you guys a little bit. I don't remember what day it was, where we talked about how you can get locked out of your employee accounts and stuff like that. If you leave, you need to keep your own data. You need to make sure that you're getting information. Well, that had happened to me. I was a freelancer. I got locked out of my employee portal because I was no longer contracted with that company, and I no longer had access to any of my testimonials. So I needed to do some work for a little while to get testimonials. Some people, you might need to freelance for a little bit just so you can get testimonials, because those are credentials. So credentials are really important. Some other things that we talked about here are, the money is important also. When it comes down to, do I start a business or do I get a job? Well, if you go and you get a job, you're going to get paid, right? Like in 2 weeks, you will get a paycheck. That's generally how that works, unless it's a commission-based position. You will get paid. So if you start a business, first of all, you might need to have money to start that to begin with. If you start freelancing, you don't necessarily know if and when you're going to get paid, depending on who you're contracting with. And sometimes that can be better. So like when I was freelancing, I would get paid all the time instead of just every 2 weeks, but it wasn't consistent. And then also, there's tax implications to all of that as well. So those are things you need to think about. If you're in a position where, hey, my position just got eliminated and I'm getting, a severance package, or I'm getting 2 more weeks of pay, and then I got to figure something out, you might not be in the best place to start freelancing, unless you have another way to make money or you have some things saved up. You got to think about those things. That's why a lot of times people will start as a side hustle while they have something else in place. And then Matt a little earlier brought up the insurance issue, which is, he said something about, because who needs insurance when you can freelance for 3 companies? I find insurance to always be a factor that one should at least consider. I'm really glad you brought that up, because when we talked about business the other day, that was something afterward that I was like, wow, we didn't even talk about that. And, for some people, the insurance thing is a deal breaker. Like if you have a bunch of kids, or if you've got a chronic health condition, or if you need a certain type of insurance, that's important. And you should at least look into that, before you make the decision to go out on your own. So these are all good things, to consider when you make that decision. So we have a lot of comments here.
A lot of comments. So I wanted to just touch quickly on one that Mark made, if I can find it.
Not Matt's declaring he's a doctor, like declaring bankruptcy.
No. So Mark, he's in the financial industry, and the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority says that you can't have testimonials. Well, the missing word in that sentence was financial advisors, because I was wondering, no testimonial for advisors. Financial. Okay. So his industry, as many industries, are regulated, and so they can't do all the things that we talked about, like getting testimonials necessarily. I suppose you can have testimonials about how nice it is to work with you, but you can't say, hey, he gave me this stock thing and I made $1 million, and that might be regulated out. So I think that's where that came from.
Well, one thing I just want to kind of pop in and say about all of this is, again, having worked with a lot of people that are making these kinds of transitions, when you're an employee, you have some kind of in-house counsel, or someone else that handles that from the outside. There's HR, there's all kinds of people there. There's marketing that are doing these things that you might not see every day. And you might be really good at doing what you do. So like I was a resume writer. I was really good at being a resume writer. I still think I am pretty good at being a resume writer. So I was like, yeah, I could go out and do this on my own. And even when I left so even when you're a freelancer, there's some of that going on. The company is doing something for you usually. If you're contracting with a larger company, they're giving you leads, or they're sending you jobs, or they're giving you some sort of support in some way. Well, when I left freelancing and went to doing everything on my own, I was like, well, first of all, how do I even get people to find me? Like, like I was just used to having a job board that I'd go to. Second of all, there wasn't anybody there to like have really difficult conversation with people that were challenging. And then third of all, the whole legal thing, there's a lot of protections that company had put in place for its contractors. And so that's why, if you are going to do something, it's almost always worth it to have a conversation with an attorney to make sure there's nothing that you're doing that's not going to work. I think of even like a lot of people who do stuff with health and fitness and, all those things that don't seem to be, an issue.
So there's
but
lots and lots of disclaimers to protect some of those.
Right, exactly. So you just, you have to be careful with some of that stuff. Anytime you're dealing with people's personal information, you got to be careful with a lot of that too. And that's another important thing that when you think about, do I get a job or do I start a business? I think it's completely, obviously I do it. I deal with all of these things, but when I stopped freelancing and started my own business, it was a shock to me about how much stuff I hadn't been thinking of that I actually needed to take care of. And it was like me, myself, and I, and there was nobody to help me with that, which is, when I went out and started finding people to help me with those kinds of things.
Yeah. So today's talk is not going to dive into business planning, but that's, I think, what you're talking about a little bit. We emphasize the importance of getting out and doing something that makes a difference. But remember that your plan will bring out a lot of the problems that you just mentioned.
Right, exactly. And so again, the idea here is just sort of have this conversation about thinking about the options that you have when you're in that position. And, again, so there's all these kinds of things that, you need to consider, and then kind of make the best choice
I think
you.
One of the options that the people here have is the expertise in this group. In Serving and Succeeding, we have Matt, the attorney, and Mark, the budget guy, and so many others who are great resources for you. And I mean, Jackie, she's a web designer. I mean, these questions that you're going to have about whether to have a job or a business, they can be clarified in part just by having conversations with some of these experts. It's really a good thing to do. So I hope that if you're watching this and you're in that situation where you're not sure which way you want to go, or maybe it's both, talk to people in here. This is what a community does well. It connects you with people who can help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt said even those going into somebody else's system like network marketing, real estate, etc., you should consider sending me a message to chat. Is there legal protections and plannings you need to do? I'll even extend that to say if you are freelancing or you're taking a job so that you can learn a business or so that you can learn an industry, it's worthwhile to have a conversation with an attorney about that, because there's, especially like when you're freelancing, there are certain things you can take with you. There's certain things you can't. And so you need to make sure that, like, if the intention is eventually to leave and go out on your own, but you're doing this for a while so that you can learn. First of all, I think it's a totally valid path. But I would say have that conversation, because what you don't want to happen is you don't want to leave and then have the company accusing you of taking their things, and you don't want to do that anyway. So you just need to make sure, that you're doing that the right way.
Sure, I agree. And I'm not sure about this, but can anyone get errors and omissions insurance?
That's a Matt question. I don't know.
Well, I think the important thing is talk to an attorney.
Yeah, right. I know that's because there's all kinds of things. I told you, I've had conversations with Matt, and the thing didn't even dawn on me until I had the conversation. So yeah, but I mean, again, this is not to scare anybody away from starting a business either. The idea is just that when you're faced with that decision, if you're ready to make a move, there are generally 3 options, which is get a job, become some kind of a freelancer or consultant, or start a business. And that freelancer consultant thing, it's kind of murky, about whether you have a business or not. And so there are certain industries too where freelancing is really common. And a lot of people freelance and they don't actually have an LLC or anything like that. They're just freelancers, corresponding for newspapers, graphic design, things like that. A lot of times you're being hired on or paid as a freelancer. You don't actually work there. But those are generally the 3 things that I see as options. Did I cover that, or is there any kind of middle ground there that I'm missing? Or you can do a combination.
Does bank robbery fit into the freelancer?
Yes, you are a bank robber. You are a freelancer. That'd be really funny if somebody came up with a job title for being a criminal. I am an independent, independent agent of criminal activities.
No, you can't use the word criminal in there. That's it has to be nefarious.
I like that. You can always become a superhero too. We had a really long conversation about Spider-Man yesterday, so maybe that's an option. But in combining those things too, though, is also a possibility. And again, you need to be careful, because sometimes when you're employed at one organization, they will actually have regulations about whether or not you can freelance for another organization.
Right. And if you can, it might be limited to certain industries,
certain activities, right? And certain things that you can do. And again, there's certain industries where that kind of stuff is really, really common. So there's less protections about that. There's, again, in writing and in journalism, there's a lot of options to freelance because.
So these days, it seems like network marketing companies are very popular.
Mm-hmm.
What issues come up with those folks? Are there any? They're part of an organization. They're an independent contractor typically.
Yeah, I would say that falls kind of into the independent contracting. I would say, so when we talk about freelancing or independent contracting, there's freelancing where you're basically an employee for a certain organization. In the fact that you work pretty much exclusively for 1 or 2 organizations, but you're paid on a 1099 basis and not with a paycheck. So that's the kind of freelancing that again, I keep mentioning newspaper reporters, because I was a correspondent for a newspaper before I was an employee of a newspaper. So there's a lot of people, and then I did various other kind of freelance writing. So that's an example of where you're working for 1 or 2 organizations. You're doing the work, and you're just not being paid as an employee. You're being paid on a project basis. So, you write so many articles a month and they assign you the work, you do it, and you get paid for it. Then there's also the Uber, Instacart, DoorDash, which is just, that's new. That kind of stuff has popped up within the last 5 years, really. And it's really taken over. It's huge now, and so many companies are trying to replicate. I think Uber was the first one, which is why they kind of call it the Uber effect, that I've heard that word used, or that phrase used, the Uber effect, where, everybody that works for you is an independent contractor, and they're bidding on essentially like fast-paced bidding on jobs. So like if you're available, you can claim the job and go do it. And then there's, the network marketing, which is different. And I think Matt had something to say about that.
His comment was that network marketing is not working a job, but rather it's building a business. And people who are really good at it and successful will tell you that it is a business, and it needs to be grown and nurtured just like any other business. So
right. So again, there's all these various areas, and there's a lot of people that do things like Uber and DoorDash, on the side while they're building their businesses. I was in San Francisco a couple of years ago because I won a contest, and so I got to trip to San Francisco. And I got all my Ubers paid for, so I had to take Uber everywhere. And I would talk to these Uber drivers, and a lot of them like had some super cool things that they were doing. And they were driving Uber in San Francisco because that was really like you could make a lot of money doing it because there's always somebody that needed a ride, and they were doing Uber while they built their businesses so that they didn't have to, they could work like midnights or whatever for Uber. So that was pretty cool. I did not leave my heart there, Matt, but thanks. Although I did leave a charger for my computer.
That's pretty much the same thing.
I know, right? But the idea is that, there are a lot of different options where you can combine these things. People I know that I've shared something similar to this before, which is that, for the last 30 plus years, people have been saying that the 9-to-5 job is going away. And people would say that, and we'd see some moves in that direction, but it would never really happen. And then within the past, few years, with the rise of all that Uber type stuff plus COVID, I think you're seeing that actually happen at hyperspeed right now. And so it's not uncommon for people to have a combination of things that they do. And I'm sure, Mark, with being the budget person, you see that often, people having various sources of income like that.
Yeah, you definitely have to talk to somebody like Mark, because you might find that you've got these 3 side hustles going on, and one of them is just there to
support the other two.
Yeah.
It's like when I was
trading your time for nothing.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I was teaching, and I figured out that I was paying other people so that I could teach. Like I was not making enough money teaching to really do anything. But I had to pay other people to work in my business while I was teaching. And so I was like, so I'm paying to have a teaching job. But yeah, the idea is when you're faced with a decision of, I need to make a shift in my career. The first thing I'm going to ask you is, what's your time frame? Because if it's like, I need to make a shift in my career because I'm interested in doing something else, I'm not feeling very happy with where I am, but I have a little bit of time, then that's going to be a different story. Then you have another option there, where someone who says, I need to make a career shift, and I say, okay, what's your time frame? Well, I have 3 months, or I have 6 months, or I have 2 weeks, or I got fired yesterday, or my company closed down yesterday. That's a different kind of situation. So that's the first thing I would ask, because it's not that you're going to be more successful or less successful. I don't think that's true, but we're looking at the options, right? So if you're currently employed and you're actually doing okay there, and, you just want to do something new, well, you have different options available to you as you make that shift. Whereas if you need a source of income now and you don't have one, but you still want to go into something else, it's doable in both scenarios, but the path is different. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you for your thought.
All right. So.
Okay. Well, we've gone a little over time, but not too far.
Do we have any other comments here we want to talk about? Let's see. how employees work. So Matt says, more than ever, there's been a shift in the marketplace of how employees do work, when, where, and how. It might be easier to be an employee than ever unless you're in medical. Yeah, that's true. It's like, how we work in terms of at home or hours and stuff like that. That's changed for a lot of people in a lot of industries. And that's an important thing because, sometimes we, that's a big part of it. Before, when we've had these shows, I've talked about, if you say I'm really unhappy with my job, I hate my job, or like whatever I'm doing for work, I absolutely hate it. Breaking it down into categories, like, is it the people you're working with? Is it where you're working? Is it the actual work you're doing? Is it the money you're getting paid? And that is true. Like, some people love what they're doing, but have always just wanted to do it from home. And if that's the case, you might be good where you're at.
A couple other good comments came in. So is this a metaphor or an analogy or what on the boat thing?
And then that would be a metaphor.
A metaphor? Okay.
Yeah.
So he says, imagine your products or businesses are sails on a boat. Whichever sail is catching the most wind, money, is where you spend the majority of your time. And then he goes on to say, we need to put the shiny pennies in the junk drawer. And that's a very insightful comment. It is true that shiny pennies can cause a lot of problems. We've had a discussion or several discussions about this recently about, some people just seem to attract opportunities and they're distracting. So while you want to capture them because there may be an appropriate time to pursue them, you can't just jump from opportunity to opportunity without seriously thinking about the implications. So,
and if you tend to be a person that attracts opportunities, you might consider, are you actually a connector, helping to connect other people with opportunities, which is something that I've really tried to step into that role. And then sometimes we do that just for, to help people, which is good. But then also, is there a way that I can profit off of making these connections if they're profiting others, considering that as well? So I do tend to make a lot of connections between people. And sometimes I'm able to make some money off of that, and sometimes not. But that's okay too. We don't have to jump on everything that comes our way just because we think we could do it.
No, but capture the thought because it caught your attention for some reason. Mm-hmm. Maybe there is something about that is consistent with who you are and who you want to be and all of that. So that's part of what journaling does. It allows you to dump those things into a journal in this case. And a year from now, maybe you'll go back to that and find that, hey, that's something that I need to pay more attention to, or not.
Right.
And Carol reminds us to keep a plug in the boat.
Yes, always keep a plug in your boat. No,
so that's a good comment because sometimes we don't think about the leaks that are happening as we're trying to move forward.
Right.
And so.
Yeah, it's, it is really important to make sure that you are keeping track of what it is that you're doing. And, remember I talked last week, I think, or whatever day it was, I talked about keeping your own analytics and stuff like that. And that's the same thing here, like making sure you're taking the time to see what you're doing that's working or not working in all areas of your life. So you're not just constantly frazzled, doing things. What? I was gonna say, because I know I do that. I mean, there are times that it's like I haven't even had time to think this week. But you'll run into those times too, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're a failure. I mean, last week we were really sick. We were gone we were all sick. Every single one of my kids got sick, and I got sick, and it wasn't COVID, but they were like getting knocked down like dominoes. And and so I had, sick kids and then backlog of work and everything. And so this week has been me kind of taking care of that. And that doesn't mean that, just because I didn't really get the time to be reflective that I would have liked to. It's just, that's a certain situation because of, things that happen. So if that happens every once in a while to you and you're you're running, that's okay. But if you're constantly always running and you're not making decisions based on, looking at what you've done and how successful it's been, and then also like how you feel about it and if you enjoy it and that kind of thing, that's not good. So think about doing that.
Well,
all right.
Any final thoughts?
Let's see. Matt says, remember, some of the most successful people in the world are multipreneurs. Those that understand this know that rather than suffering from shiny object syndrome, we support the shiny object superhero movement.
Oh, I want to learn more about that.
I just want to sing Shiny, like the John Clement song from Moana. The giant crab. No.
I can say that I did see that movie.
Really? Wow. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
He saw a movie that I'm talking about, a children's movie.
I don't remember the song, but
you saw the play because my children were in it.
I saw that too. Yeah.
All right. Speaking of plays that my children are in, actually, Charity and I are in a virtual play called, I'm not going to sing it, Mark. You're going to have to come to Leroy's on a Tuesday night if you want to hear me sing.
Leroy's.
Yeah. So
Isn't that a biker bar?
Kind of.
That's cool. Bikers are good people.
They have good live music over there, although they didn't for a long time because of COVID, but now it's coming back. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad they survived this.
Yeah, right. So anyway, Green Cup Karaoke. What was I even saying there?
Well, you were talking about the play that you and Charity were in.
Charity and I are in a play. It's a virtual play called Game-a-Palooza. And if you guys want to see it, I'll put a link somewhere. So like you buy the ticket and then you have 24 hours of access to watch a play. It is really funny. It's about video games. And like it goes through like all the different video games and
all of them?
Well, many of the different video games.
Okay.
You just there's a reason that I just this person right here is super helpful to me in many ways. But yes, if you guys want to see the play, I will send you a link. Let me know. Of course, leave a hashtag sponsor if you're interested in having your name up here and the other perks that come with sponsorship. We're working really hard on getting a system together to make it easier for you guys to become a sponsor, as well as a nice little webpage where you'll actually be able to see what being a sponsor includes. But if right now you're thinking, hey, I just have to be a Green Cow sponsor, let me know. Leave a hashtag sponsor, and I will reach out to you about what that entails. And it's not expensive, but it's cool. And yeah,
that's very cool. So if you want to talk to me at any time about business stuff, be sure to reach out to me directly or through the group. Either way is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be happy to talk to you about, actually, I'm going to send you to people like Mark and to Matt and to all the other specialists in here about a lot of things. But I do have a fair amount of experience, and I have an MBA.
He has letters. He has the letters disease. Sorry, that was more fun for me than it should. I have a lot of letters after my name. One day those letters are going to say PhD. I actually started a PhD program, but I had no time for it, and I realized I knew everything already that they were teaching. So at least in the 2 classes I took, so I was like, yeah, meh. But one day. All right. And yeah, if you guys want to reach out to me about career stuff, I'm always happy to have that conversation. Especially like, again, there's certain things that I don't know everything about. I'm not a real big like assessment person. So if you're like trying to figure out, what your strengths are and strengths profile and all that kind of stuff, personality profiles, I'm probably going to send you to a person like Stacy for that.
There's lots of resources in this.
Sure. There are. But again, if you want to talk about career, be happy to talk with you. So either leave me a message or tag me in the group. If you're watching somewhere outside of our Facebook group, so we are on various Facebook pages right now as well as YouTube. We tried to be on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn got mad and wouldn't let us play there. We got kicked out of LinkedIn, you guys. We're not serious enough for them. Booted. But we're on various other platforms. So if you are watching on another platform, in the description of this video is how to join our Facebook group. That's really the best place for you to connect with us and all these awesome people that are leaving comments. And again, if you want to become a Greencast sponsor, leave us a hashtag sponsor. Or if you want to become a sponsor, but you don't want to say that, you can also message me. All right. I think that's everything.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate all the comments and input and insight into all sorts of topics here today. Mm-hmm. And so go out and make this a great day. It's a sunny day here, mostly sunny. And we are getting warmer weather here in Chicagoland, so that's a good thing.
All right. So is it mostly sunny or partly cloudy?
Yes.
Does that is it based on the attitude of the meteorologist?
Yeah, it's a half empty, half full thing.
That's pretty funny. All right.
Okay, go do something great today, and we will talk to you soon. Today's Friday. We will see you, if not before, on Monday.
On Monday.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.